Hey guys, it's Azia. Super excited to be here with Matt today on the Bold Moves podcast. Can't wait for you guys to check out a little bit about my journey and learn about kind of what I've been through in real estate.
Welcome to Bold Moves, the show where real people share the risks they took, the lessons they learned, and the bold steps that changed everything. I'm your host, Matt Torres. From entrepreneurs and visionaries to everyday people making an impact, we dive into honest stories of growth, grit, and transformation. If you're chasing a dream, building something new, or just ready to level up, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Now let's meet today's guest, someone who's taken bold moves and lived to tell the story. Alrighty, so we are back with the Bold Moves podcast, and I have a very special guest. I have Miss Azia Coleman, or Mrs. Azia Coleman, and she is a phenomenal mover and shaker. She recently just started a brokerage called Quantum Homes, which was probably focusing on property management and all of that stuff.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very cool. I found out in BNI because that's where we met. And you have 13 years experience in real estate, which is amazing. But hey, do you want to make a quick introduction and just say hi to our audience and let everyone know who you are?
Yeah, I'd love to. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here. Yes, that is all true. 13 years in real estate. I focus in residential property management, but also residential real estate, kind of hyper-focused in the investment world, really enjoy building relationships with my clients. And the cool thing about property management is you can kind of sustain those a little bit more long-term than you can in traditional real estate.
Nice. Yeah, property management. So I'm curious, not focusing really on the home sales, but more of the management of the properties.
Exactly.
And I've seen so many properties now that are just strictly rental. In fact, I have a lot of friends who are a lot younger than me. And they're like, I don't want to buy a house. I'm just going to rent. I just want it taken care of. And to me, that's just kind of mind boggling because in my generation, we're like, buy a house, and they're just kind of you don't want to buy a house. And it's just kind of weird. Are you seeing that same thing, that same trend too?
Definitely. I forget when this statistic actually came out this year, but we're seeing that the average homeowner right now is waiting until closer to 37 years old is the average first-time home buyer right now. So yes, a lot of people are pushing that off. I don't know how much of that is because they actually want to or because of just, the circumstances of life and finances and, savings being incredibly low right now, prices being extremely high, and just kind of everything in between. So definitely what we're seeing.
Yeah. I think it's probably a mix of both.
Without question.
Yeah. And it's actually kind of strange because me and my wife were 23 when we bought our first house. Mm-hmm. And you talk to a 23-year-old now, my nieces are around 23-ish, around that age. And their houses are just insane right now, And it's just
average, median home price in the Valley right now is about $410,000, $420,000. For the average first-time buyer, I also bought very young. I bought my first house at 21, and I paid $58,000 for a little townhouse. So, it's just for the average, first-time buyer, new family trying to conceive, coming up with a down payment for a $500,000, even a $400,000 house right now is hard.
Yeah.
So
that's insane.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be in that part of the business where we can kind of help out in that immediate need in the short term, but ultimately try to stay consistent and build those relationships with people because I've helped a lot of my tenants actually purchase homes as well. So it's rewarding when that comes about.
Awesome. Just so our listeners can get a feel for how we know each other. So BNI again, Business Networking International, which I think is, I say this on every show. I just think it's an amazing group because you build real connections with people. You just build relationships. And that's, I think, one of the main key foundations of it that is just so amazing. But yeah, it's just, it's pretty awesome. Was this your first experience with BNI or were you in other chapters before?
No, this was my first experience. Afton, who's been a guest already, brought me into that chapter. And it's so true what you're saying. I'm sure you have the same thing in the insurance world, but in the real estate world, every time you look up, there's a networking event or a happy hour or, what have you, which is great. Don't get me wrong. That's how we build our business, but it's so much better, in my opinion, to be able to go really deep in those relationships. And, I think it helps you ultimately build stronger bonds and therefore better referrals. So I love it.
Yeah. It's very cool. And it's always interesting too, when you see like new people come in and they don't have that mindset yet. And they're the first thing you're like, what do you do? Like, can we get some business going? I'm like, whoa, chill out, homie. I'm like, we just met. Like, I don't even know who you are. Oh man, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just to kick things off, because what this show does, we talk about bold moves, the risks, the, leap of faith that we've taken in our lives, in our business, in our journeys. But just to kind of kick things off, what is a moment in your life that really captures the intensity of your journey? And really, like, I guess the real question is like, what's one dramatic or like pivotal moment in your property management career, or even in life, that just kind of still sticks with you?
Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was in my quote unquote property management career, but it was actually deciding to commit to real estate. I got licensed when I was, 18. And that wasn't the path that I was supposed to be going on. I was enrolled in college. I was supposed to be going to school. I was supposed to be doing all of the things. And I probably got, a year, 2 years into my college career and just like had that moment of, why am I doing this? I ended up doing the real estate license simultaneously while I was in school. But there was definitely a point where I was trying to proceed through with the degree, trying to finish, kept, withdrawing from classes, kept just feeling like I'm spinning in a circle. And I just finally said, what do I want to do? Like, what's going to light me up? What's going to make me feel good? So I've always been someone who wanted to work and wanted to do something that was mentally and, physically stimulating. So I finally just said, all right, if this is the path I'm going to go, I'm just going to go head first. So I quit the job that I was working at. I quit school, and I just said, I'm going to fully commit to doing real estate.
Wow.
So yeah, with no salary, by the way, because that's not how real estate works.
Yeah.
So that was probably the biggest, boldest move I would say so far.
What year were you in school when you took that jump?
So that was the thing. I had gone to one college, thought, it must be the school. Clearly not me. I'm not the problem, right? So I went to the Art Institute for interior design. That's still always has been, always will be my passion. I love interior design. But I got, a semester there, and I was like, this isn't working. This isn't for me. So I switched to, all right, let's go the community college route, and let's try to work on an associate's degree, hopefully to build up to a 4-year. And I probably got a year. So I would say it was technically like my sophomore year of college. And I was just like, this is just not for me.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy, because college doesn't necessarily equate to a lot of success. It's like, there's so many people I know that have gone through college who are not doing anything. But yeah, I would say, like, for me, the same thing. Like, I went through college for the first time and dropped out. And then I had to go back, like, again, 10 years later and actually, like, try to do it, which I did. But still, it's like, I'm not using my degree, which is kind of strange. But it's funny, you went to the Art Institute of Phoenix. I first went to a school similar. It was not in business anymore. It was called Collins College.
I remember that.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that, yes.
Yeah, I went there for web design. And then I think I was there for like a couple months, and then I was like, my ADHD brain was like, let's do something else. Let's go to ASU. And I did that and then dropped out. That's a whole long story, but that's crazy. That's pretty funny.
It's funny because I was undiagnosed ADHD at the time too. And now, like, looking back, it all makes sense. But at the time, it was just like, this is not right. Something's not right here.
Isn't that interesting how, like, back then, like, undiagnosed, you're just kind of like going through things and you're just thinking it's everything. And then now you're like, Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
So many
Okay.
dots
Yeah.
connected. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so strange. It's so strange. Like, really, I think social media has like really played a role in like mental health because like you're hearing all of these things and you're like, wait a minute, like and then you go get checked out and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, that's legit. It's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And it like we were talking about earlier, it helps you understand like some of these nuances, like, oh, that's why I get burnt out after a long day. You know what I mean? Like just those
Yeah.
little things that you don't even think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Cause like even my wife, she would ask me like, okay, why are you just like kind of just sitting there doing nothing? And I'm like, okay, well, this is me recharging. Like my brain seriously needs that. Like, it's just so interesting. But what's very interesting is now I can recognize it with my son.
Yes.
Because my son, he was having such a hard time. Like he was up, like late at night, he played video games all day. And then, he had like, I think he had to read like a chapter of the Bible or something before school. And he's like trying to read and he's struggling. He's like, my brain keeps telling me like I need to reread it and this and that. And I'm like, I knew exactly what he's talking about because I struggled with that like my entire life. And I was like, dude, like it is the end of the day. Like your brain is not in the, like, it's not in the mood to do this right now. You need to put it down. Also, like, medication wise, that's gone at the end of the day. Like you're depleted both like medically and like, chemically.
Yes.
And I said, it is not happening.
Yes.
And, when you kind of like put it that way, you kind of like, oh, when
and
I was
you can be such a better support.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you were going to say, I didn't have that as a kid. No. My parents were like, why can you not get your work done?
Yep.
Just get it done, you know? So, yeah.
I got the, like, just suck it up and just get the work done. And I'm like, struggles.
It's not that simple. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So before before you took that leap, I just want to kind of rewind just like a little bit. So what did your professional life look like, during your time, like, like say Keller Williams before you opened up your brokerage and stuff as a team leader? I mean, what aspects of property management were you handling then, or were you handling project management then?
So I had two kind of worlds when I was at KW. I was the managing partner of Green Management Group at Keller Williams East Valley. So we managed over 200 properties and I kind of led the team there and oversaw the team there. Now, to be fair, I worked my way up. I started with Marcus Green at, as the lowest position that company could offer as a leasing agent. This was when I had just dove in headfirst into real estate. So I took a job as a leasing agent with no guaranteed pay, where basically you eat what you kill, and as many properties as you lease up, that's what you're going to get paid for. So I literally went there and I did the math and I said, okay, how many lease ups do I need here to be able to pay my bills and be able to make ends meet? And I did it, So I started in that position. I kind of worked my way up through the company. I was with Marcus for a little over 9 years, so 9.5 years. Wow. And eventually was leading the team and just running things for him while he was in Utah. He lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leasing's tough. I remember I worked in that office for like a little bit.
Yeah.
And I remember I had to go out on a few leases and I was like, this is rough. Like,
it's not easy.
I'm like, knowing that I know it's not all about the money, but still,
but you gotta
like,
eat.
Yeah. And I'm like, I specifically remember there was this one client where, the agent I was working with, I knew didn't really want to work with them. Like, here, Matt, go handle this. And it was just like house after house after house for rentals, keep in mind. And it was interesting because I'd never seen this, but she had the mindset of like she was gonna buy the house and all these little things. I'm like, this is a rental. It's not your forever home here.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was just interesting.
Well, and just so your listeners know, the average leasing commission is only a couple $100. Like, it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's almost as much time as you would spend on a traditional sale and a fraction of the price. So it was working at Walmart probably would have been more lucrative.
Gas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's expensive.
Yeah. But it was a means to an end and it worked out well. I mean, it really did. I'm grateful for the experience, but yeah, that's where I started and ended up working up to there. So when I left KW, I was the team leader at the time, like you mentioned. And that was, though it was a different industry, if you will, because I'm now recruiting agents, kind of being a support system to the agents that we already have in the office, overseeing the office, financials, all of that kind of stuff. So it was a similar set of skills required, but still a completely different industry.
Yeah.
But I think what kind of helped me is in the property management leasing world, we call it personality management rather than property management, because you're always the bad guy. Which ironically enough really paid off and was a very useful skill in the agent management world as well. Not that I did not have wonderful agents, but there is a lot of personality meshing that has to happen in that world. So yeah.
Very interesting. Personalities with clients and agents combined, like together?
So your agents in that world are your clients. We can't pay our bills if we don't have any agents in our office selling homes.
Yeah.
So it's I was in a very unique position where I have to be mama bear and I have to be supportive and make sure they feel loved and welcome. And like when they walk in the door, they're at home. But at the same time, my job was also to make them productive and help them sell more houses. So it's a balance.
Yeah. That's a tough balance.
It's a very hard balance.
Wow. That's crazy. When we go through things in life, there's usually like this breaking point or like this spark. So after about 13 years in real estate, like what finally pushed you to like take this risk, just opening up your own brokerage?
Yeah.
Was there like a specific client experience or like a market opportunity that you saw? Like what was going through your mind when you decided to do that?
So I wish it was like this lovely story of I just one day woke up and decided I was just going to open up the brokerage and do it that way. Unfortunately, that is not the case. I won't lie. I was super happy as the team leader at East Valley. And, I love those people there. The leadership and I there had apparently a misunderstanding with what the plan was going to be for my property management business. Mm-hmm. It was so to answer your question directly, I was always going to do this in my mind. It was always a natural path that I was going to have a team that did property management. I didn't know that it was going to push me to the brokerage point. But essentially what happened is there became, I guess, a conflict of interest, if you will, with the leadership there at that market center and me doing the property management team. So it really came to a point where it was like, okay, well, if I can't do this here, like I got to do this for me. So that's kind of what pushed me. And I, once again, kind of took that leap of faith. I had one client and it was a lease only client when I left KW, wow. 3 months ago, and we're sitting at just under 25 doors right now. So wow. Just in that short amount of time, we've been able to do it, but it was scary because there was nothing, I went to having a steady salary plus my sales to nothing. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like, that's a quick amount of time to go from like 0 to 25 or 1 to 25. Like, was there like a lot of social media marketing or like what did you do? Word of mouth? Like what was it that like just like how you got there?
So I haven't paid for any social media marketing. I can't stress enough like how much I value my relationships.
Yeah.
People make fun of me because I go almost anywhere and I know someone there, you know what I mean? But like I truly do try to talk to everyone in the room when I go, you know what I mean? Like it means a lot to me. And I think that I have built really strong relationships and those people go out like little soldiers and market for me a lot of times. So I would give all of my success to people who refer me,
Yeah. Okay. So relationships, that's
period. Yeah. That's it.
So did BNI coincide with it? Did okay. Yeah, it did coincide. Because I remember you said like, you were like, I'm opening up my brokerage. And we're like, yeah. Okay. So BNI probably had a lot to do with it.
I've made a ton of connections through BNI, and like you guys are my biggest cheerleaders. No joke. Like I mean, literally just today, I get a call from someone who's like, yeah, everybody's talking about you on this Facebook group. And I'm like, okay.
Dude, I love what we're doing there.
Yeah.
It is so amazing. So like,
it's powerful.
Yeah, it is. So it's funny because when someone sees a post on there and they're looking for so-and-so, it's one thing when the person who's actually doing the thing is like, hey, pick me.
Yes.
But it's something else when you have like, even just one other person like validate you. It's like, hey, you need to call like this person. And when you have like a BNI group of like, I don't know how many people, 20, 30 people, all like
vouching for you.
Yeah, all going on there. It's like, yes, pick her, pick him, pick him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, it says a lot. And it's
huge.
yeah, I don't know. I wonder if any other BNI groups are doing that. Like, or
I
any other
hope
groups.
so, sincerely, because I mean, I can't, that's, and no exaggeration, that's the third one from social media. And
Yeah.
I'm not calling them, they're calling me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know, in our world, like those warm leads that's our business. That's our bloodline, you know? So it's huge. And then in addition to that, like the people who are my clients are my friends. I go to their kids' birthday parties. You know, they come to my home, and I really, not all of them, of course, but like I truly treat people like they are a part of my family and a part of my circle. And I think that pays off, especially as we go more to this world of automation and AI. Like I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah. I think it's going to be such a defining like moment or a defining factor in a business transaction, because it is now like so automated. Even like social media stuff, like you can see a lot of automation, and sometimes you can tell like, oh yeah, that's you know, ChatGPT or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But when you find the organic, you know, like, and the relationship aspect of it, it just pushes it over, you know what I mean? Like, I think people are going to have to really start working on that if they're not.
Yes. And the right way to do it, because I do believe there are certain things that can really be, you can have a CRM remind you that it's so-and-so's birthday.
Yeah.
But if you don't pick up the phone and tell them happy birthday, I've been thinking about you, how's your year? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where those two come together, I think is where the power is.
Yeah. It's so funny. I used to work for this company. It was like a growth accelerator for real estate agents. And I was like a growth coach, and I worked with like agents, and I was like, okay, we should be doing this and that, you know. And one of the things was calling your SOI, like at minimum, like 2 a day, you know what I mean? You should be doing a lot more, but that was like the bare bones minimum. And it's just picking up the phone, and it's like exactly what you're saying. Hey, how's it going? On top of all the other stuff that the company did, was like postcards and mailers and all this other stuff. But that's all extra stuff, because I think their thing was probably like 12 touch points a month, you know what I mean? Different mediums.
It should be, well, sorry, my real
estate
coach is coming out of me now. A 32 touch plan is what we operated on. So not a month, 32 a year is kind of where we looked at. So that probably puts
maybe they were just like spanning.
They were over. Yours was much more thorough, it sounds like. But typically a 32 touch point is what you need to be doing a year to be top of mind. That's kind of what.
But what I found was interesting was that what tied it all together was that voice.
Yes.
Like
pick up the phone.
Yeah. And that was the one thing that all these agents that I talked to were afraid to do. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say. You don't have to know what you're going to say. Just pick up the phone, and when they start talking, just go. You know what I mean? And it was just like, hey, how's it going? Mm-hmm. It was interesting because, you know, Michael, right? Hernandez, he's my realtor.
Great guy. Amazing guy.
Yeah. There was one time he just called me out of the blue.
Mike is amazing at that too. He even he keeps me on his list too. He's amazing.
And I love that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And he didn't have anything like, oh, here's what's going on in the market today and this and that. He was just like, hey, how are the kids doing?
Yep.
Like, hey, fine. It was maybe like 30 seconds. And he was like, okay, well, I just want to say hi. I'm like, cool. I felt like so appreciated. Like, and I was like, he thought to just give me a call and say, what's up?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Didn't ask for anything. Didn't like, you know, it was just kind of like, hey. And I will always like, you know, he's always on my mind, like real estate stuff. I'm like, yeah, my buddy Mike, you know?
Yes.
It's just crazy. Like it has such a profound impact that people don't even realize. People do, you know, but there are some that don't.
They're scared. I only say that because I've worked, that was my job. And I would sit out, we called it the bullpen, but I would sit out there and I would say, hey, I'm going to be doing calls for 2 hours. If anybody wants to sit out here with me and call their database, let's do it. I'm here. And it was very rare that I had people in there with me doing it.
Yeah.
But when it did happen, it was very powerful. Like, I think people seriously I think it's a combination. You underestimate how powerful it is, but you overestimate how much people are thinking about what you're going to say. There is no expectation. If you don't set the expectation, and if you don't call them and say, hey, I'm just calling for this, this, and this, they're not going to know one way or the other. Just like you said, he cares about you. He called me and he thought of me. That's the first step.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
Now, if it was like, once a week.
Yeah, I'd be like, all right, Mike, back up. Yeah.
That's funny. Cool. So there's always like, when you take a big risk, there's always pressure, you know what I mean? Like, especially on your family life. But like, you got 2 young kids, you got a husband, this established career. What were the stakes for you, like personally and professionally? Like if Quantum Homes like did not succeed, I mean, what were you looking at? Like how did you prepare your family for this transition?
So we didn't have a lot of time to prepare, honestly, because of how unexpected it was. And I would also give the caveat that I don't feel necessarily like we're not where we want to be. I see the path, and I feel like we've had a lot of success in a very short time, but I still see a lot of runway ahead of us. But I will say my husband is incredibly supportive, probably much more supportive than I deserve. But he basically said, like, we're going to figure it out. Like, I don't care what you need to do. If this isn't for you and they're not supporting you where you need it, then that's not for us. So it was, within a week, he was helping build out websites and helping get stuff set up. You know what I mean? So like that, the family support, my parents were incredibly supportive. Like, I think for me, I am my own worst enemy every single time. Like, I set goals and I intend to hit, like any of my friends will tell you, I set wildly outlandish goals. It's just my thing. But I have this deep sense of failure when I don't hit them. So for me, it's just trying to keep into perspective. Like, this is a new business. You're not an expert at being a business owner. Yeah. And it's going to take time. Yeah. And it's going to take patience. And most of all, consistency. So yeah. I'm trying to keep the mindset of consistency overall.
Yeah. I think the consistency part is something that a lot of folks like just kind of overlook. Like that is huge. In so many different areas. It's so interesting. Like, just like take, for example, like the videos, like YouTube, like TikTok, all this other stuff. Like, there are people that have been consistent on posting their content like for 5+ years, and then it takes off. And I've talked about this before, but it's like all of a sudden something goes viral, and then boom, like it's like the money train. You know what I mean? It's just like insane.
Yes.
Most people, like, I post a couple of videos and like, yeah, I'm not getting anything, I'm done. And
they give up.
Yeah.
I see that in real estate all the time. That's why the failure rate in real estate is ridiculously high.
Yeah.
It's not an overnight thing, especially not in property management. I mean, before you have real success in a property management world, you're looking at a portfolio of even 50 is small. You really 150 doors or more. That's when you really start to see some true long-term success.
So my spidey sense kind of ticked off a little bit when you said websites. So your husband builds websites?
No, he does not build websites.
Oh.
That is not his profession.
I was like, a tech guy. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm a techie guy. So
yeah, he is very tech leaning. But no, that is not his profession by any stretch. He's actually a talent recruiter for Signature Aviations. He does all of their like senior VP recruiting, talent acquisition, that world. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a very interesting world. A lot of recruiting in general has a lot of similarities to real estate. Yeah. But when you start going into those higher level, like he was doing an assignment for their person who's working at the White House to do all of their private airlines and stuff. So yeah, there are roles for him that are very complicated, and you've got to make sure that the right person. So these interview processes are months at a time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah. Anyway, so no, he does not. He is helping me as a very sweet favor.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Kind of zooming in a little bit here on that exact moment you kind of like took that leap. So kind of take us to February, like 2025, when you like officially, transitioned, you registered, like Quantum Homes, you're like, this is it. Where were you when you like it officially transitioned and like this was a thing, like this is official?
Where was I mentally, or where was I physically in the world?
Ooh, both.
So physically in the world, I have been working. I've just using my home office right now because it's, just me and what my other, my partner. And mentally, I was probably not in the best space that I should have been for what was happening and how great this has ultimately become. But it's, like I said, my failure sensitivity is very, very high, very, very low. Anyway, I'm very sensitive to failure. I felt like because I didn't finish the job that I wanted to finish at my old brokerage, that I had failed. Like, I felt like I failed my agents. I felt like, I wasn't good enough. There was so many things that were going through my head at the time I did this.
So you felt that you were a failure because you didn't finish like your job at your last position?
Yeah. So that our brokerage, I want to be obviously respectful. The brokerage isn't in the best position. There's a lot of room for improvement, both from a, culture standpoint and from a monetary standpoint. And I felt like we were making a lot of progress. We were seeing some really promising results as a result of everything that we were putting into the brokerage, me and my team there. And again, it was not my intention to leave.
Yeah.
And it felt forced, and I made a very quick decision just based off the circumstances that I was given. And it felt like I was choosing between the promises I had made to them and the promise I was going to make that I had made to myself about starting my team.
Yeah. I can understand that. I mean, I think that's a sign of a good-hearted, not only leader, but person, because you're thinking about others, you know what I mean? Leaving that behind. But at the same time, you have your family to think about, you know what I mean? You have your own, career path. There's a lot of other things that go into it. And that's a tough call, but I don't know. I wouldn't beat myself up over it too much.
I got over it pretty quickly.
I know.
In the sense of I am so much happier. I have so much less stress.
Yeah.
I get to pick up my kids from school every day. You know what I mean? So those things outweighed, those fears very quickly.
Yeah.
But there is still that lingering, that question.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's not a bold journey without bumps in the road, roadblocks, those types of things. What were some of the unexpected challenges that you faced early on when making this transition?
Into real estate, you mean?
Into opening up your brokerage.
Well, I mean, you literally start from the ground. I mean, it was a challenge just to get the business, get the systems and processes in place. Obviously, I had done this for a very long time. But I was more in a leadership oversight process building standpoint. It's been very challenging to get back into the weeds of actually, you know what I mean? Getting into the nitty gritty of your business. So I would say that has definitely been a challenge. Getting the mindset every day that it's all on me. I don't have anybody I can call when I need. I mean, I do in the sense of I've got my partner, but in the sense of who's going to make the ultimate final business decisions, it's all on me, Yeah. And then again, just choosing between the safety of being paid a very good salary and not being guaranteed a penny every single month. I think that's probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. The no salary and just commissions and bonuses, I think that's a risk for a lot of people making that transition, especially if you're not set up financially and mentally for that, because that's a roller coaster. Yeah, it's so funny because that's pretty much been my career my whole life, commissions, bonuses, maybe some salary here and there, but my wife just transitioned into a sales job. Okay. She's been doing life insurance over the phone for about 6-7 months now, and she was a teacher for 10 years. So straight salary.
Consistent.
Yeah. Very knew what was going on. My jobs were always up and down. And it was always what is going on? And I'm
Yeah.
I always kind of like knew what was going on, but it was kind of difficult, to get her used to it. Now she's in sales. She totally gets it.
Yep.
She understands. We're on
Yep.
the same page, which is awesome. Because she's going through her commission stuff, and I'm like, yep, some months are good, some months are bad.
It's an ebb and a flow. Yeah. I will say I was blessed even in my position with Green Management Group to receive a salary there.
Yeah.
But the brunt of my income came from sales and without question.
Yeah. It's nice when they're up.
It's great when they're up, but when they're down,
We're like,
the meals change a little bit.
Yeah.
You always know when a realtor gets a commission check.
Oh yeah, it's beans and rice this month.
Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. What would you say, kept you going during those really tough times?
I would say my family, and my support system. Like, my circle is incredible. Like, BNI for sure.
Yeah.
And my friends, like, my circle is amazing. That's how I got through.
Yeah. Is your circle primarily from BNI, or do you have like outside like organizations and groups that you're a part of that help you out?
So I've been in real estate so long now that I've got obviously a huge group of realtor friends that I interact, but BNI is the only like network, like official network that I'm involved in. But I do have this way of, my husband teases me, I make friends wherever I go. So I have a pretty good group of, a large group of people that I know if I pick up the phone, I could call any of them at any time and they'd be there. So
Yeah.
I'm blessed.
Yeah. That's really like important to have, like I know people that don't have like an outside network, just friends, and that's tough, if you don't.
It's isolating.
Yeah, it really is. But it's so interesting because as soon as you break out of that and you start connecting with people, so many opportunities open up, so many doors. Like, I've been trying to do like tech stuff, like for my job for the longest time, and could not like get in anywhere. And had I not like branched out, like went into BNI and started like attending meetings, meeting people, talking to people, and like making connections, doing this podcast, like that was like, I would say, a catalyst to like a lot of other things. And now I have a job where I get to do code all day and like, work on cool AI stuff. And like, just my brain is just like, it's not even working. Like, there's so many times I'm still in the office and like everyone else is leaving and I'm like, I'm still working. I'm still doing my thing. And they're like, okay, all right, we'll lock up. I'm like,
I know it's so cliche, but like, it's seriously when you're doing what you want to be doing. And I'm not going to say, oh, it never feels like I'm working, because that's just crazy. But like, I don't feel drained at the end of the day. With what I do now. You know what I mean? I don't feel like, well, I didn't get anything accomplished. I don't feel like I made any, any kind of impact. Like, that's a big thing, to work so hard every day and not feel like you've moved the needle at all. Yeah. I feel like that's what burns people out.
Yeah, totally. It really does. I still sell insurance though.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while I get, I get a policy I get to write, and I'm like, which is still kind of fun.
Yeah. But you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool though, because like I'm doing the tech stuff in a field that I have a lot of experience in, that I like doing. And like, it almost is like a competitive advantage, because there are some things that I'm working on that I get to build that other tech agencies and whatnot really don't have the insight. They have to like go farm it out or like go do other research. I already know. Like, I already know in my mind. I can cut through a lot of stuff and like just build. Like, it's just really kind of fun.
No, so. I absolutely love that. And I know that feeling. It's an amazing, and I think the world is a better place when people are doing not only what they're good at, but what they actually enjoy doing. Yeah. Because I don't think everybody enjoys doing what they're good at.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. So when we look at the like bold moves in general, they often kind of like reshape how we define like what winning looks like, what success looks like. So how would you say your definition of success, how has it changed because of this journey that you've been on?
I think I'm re-examining what success looks like, and recognizing that everybody's success doesn't look the same. Everybody doesn't have this ideal that they want to make millions and millions of dollars. For me, I mean, it would be nice. I'm definitely not pushing
Yeah,
that away.
I'll take it.
Yeah. But I mean, really for me, success looks like having a balance in my life where I have enough energy at the end of the day to help my son with his homework, where I'm not drained, at the end of the day and I can't focus my time to my husband or my kids. So me personally, I think I know that if I take care of people and I commit to running the business the way that I envision it, the way I see it, I believe the money will come. So and in real estate, like all they train you on is numbers. If you got to sell this much. So it's retraining my brain to understand that the money is a lag effect. And the lead up to that is the happiness and putting in the type of work that I want people, giving people the experience in my company that I want them to have.
Yeah. I don't know if I read this somewhere or where I saw something where I know, it was like a recruiter I saw on LinkedIn. They were posting something where he transitioned somebody who was making like $500,000 a year or something like that, but was like working an insane amount of hours, like was not home for his family for a job that paid like maybe like 150. So compared 150 to 500, you're thinking this guy's not going to take the job. The guy took it because it offered basically his life back. He was able to spend time with his family like you're talking about and not feel stressed and work like a standard, work week, not, a billion hours a week.
Yeah.
There's a lot to that.
There's so much.
Yeah.
You can't take the money with you.
Yeah.
I don't know that if people have figured that out. You can't take the money. So, and though we want to be able to take care of our families and lead something and all of that, I would rather leave my children with knowing that I loved them and that I was there and I was present than to leave them with a bunch of money.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then you end up with like spoiled rich kids.
Right. Right.
Who when you're like 70 or 80 don't want to like mess with you.
Nothing to do with you. Yeah.
Like, I know I'm going to be having some issues like, eating and like walking.
We all will at some point. It's going to happen.
No. I'm just like, come on guys. Like
those experiences, and that's something that I'm trying to remember, that those experiences, like I saw some crazy statistic that you only get like 12 summer vacations or something like that with your kids. I don't remember. Don't quote me on the number, but it was less than 20 summer vacations with your children. And like that really was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like sometimes I'll be like sitting down at the dinner table with my kids and my wife, and we're eating. And it was funny. I don't know what it was. My daughter, she's like 8, and she goes, okay, let me tell you about my day and what happened. And I'm like, I'm just sitting here like, oh my gosh, like, all right, let's listen to this. But it's funny because you think about it, like how many more times is that going to happen? Because like I'm grown, I'm out with my own family, and there's going to be a time like they're going to be gone and with their own family, and I'm not going to like be around this. And it's like, it's weird because in that moment you're just like, oh my gosh, my kids, they're like, sometimes they can be a little much, but then you're like, wait a minute, like they're not here, but for how many years? 18 years. And then, and that goes by like that.
A blink of an eye. Yeah.
I can't believe how quick 18 years goes by. It just really kind of makes you think. Yeah. 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 And there's this one social media video I saw, I don't know how many years ago. It still sticks with me to this day. It's like this cartoon, it's like stick figure almost type thing. And there's this dad, and he's like working on his computer, and the kid comes up and he wants to he has like a soccer ball or football, and the dad's like, and then he, kid comes up, and as it's growing, the kid's slowly growing up, and the dad's still working on his computer, and he's like pushing him away. And then it kind of flips where the dad is older, and he's like coming up to his son to try to do stuff, and the son's like, go away, and it's just like, I don't want that to happen to me. You know what I mean?
And we don't realize it when we do it sometimes. Like sometimes we truly are just in the middle of something. You're like, no, not right now. And I understand that it can't always be helped. But I think the more you realize, like that might be the last time they ever ask you to read that book or whatever that looks, you know what I mean? It changes your perspective.
Yeah. I remember I was doing something like some web stuff or coding something. And my daughter is like, can you read this book to me? And I was like in the middle of something. And I sat there for a second, and I was like, I wanted to like say, no, I'm busy. I got to do this. But then I'm like, well, dang, like how many more times am I going to have to like read her a book? So
Yes.
like I stopped and I read her the book, and in that, like it took like what, 2 minutes, but for her,
It means the world.
yeah,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like, and I just, that it's really hard to like get that perspective, like in times where you're just like, you're stressing out and you're like,
Yes.
because it's so easy just to snap and be like, no, and then sometimes I do, sometimes I'm like, no, and then I'm thinking, oh, and then I go
hate that.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing. And I felt that in my previous job where I would, I'd come home, I'd have to change and then go right to, another event, completely miss dinner, haven't seen them since they've been home. And then, of course, you wake up in the morning and you're back to the same flow. And it's one thing for that to happen one week, but that when that's happening week after week after week, like I had to re-examine where the priority was.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about like some what ifs. So like, well, not what ifs, like when we look at the bold moves that we haven't taken yet, what's the bold move for you? What's the next bold move that you're probably maybe a little scared of or not sure or unsure of? Like what's next or what's holding you back if you haven't done it?
So I think the next step will be to get a brick and mortar space and start recruiting agents underneath of us. The platform, how brokerage platform works. So to start bringing on some agents under Quantum Homes, the actual brokerage will probably be my next step. As far as holding me back, I'm really trying to focus on getting the property management portfolio to where I want to be. Now, realistically, where I want to be is probably a very long ways away, but at least getting some stable footing under that part of the business before we expand to something else.
How far do you think you are from where you'll actually like start bringing on other agents and opening up a brick and mortar?
That'll probably be, I'm hoping for next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big step when you actually are bringing other people on, because now it's like, okay, it's not just you, you know what I mean? Now you're got other people who have families and lives, and that's always the toughest part, like running a business or just leadership in general is like, now what you do and say affects other people.
Yes.
And it can be like in a profound way.
Yes.
It's just kind of crazy.
And I don't think, like, before I got into leadership, if you will, I didn't realize how much people like look to me or like want to hear what I have to say sometimes. I think I underestimate that. But I, like any of the girls that used to work with me will tell you, like, I take my leadership very seriously. Like I take it, I'm loyal almost to a fault, where I put my people in front of me, oftentimes in most situations. And not because, a lack of self-interest, but because I look at it as that's my job. And if they're not protected and they're not happy and they're not thriving, then what am I here for? You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing. And it's funny, like I've seen that in the military, and that's a really good thing, I think. Like I've done that where like I've stood up for some of my soldiers because I don't know if I mentioned to you, like I'm in the National or the Army Guard, and like as an officer, like you're kind of like, you've got soldiers who work for you, and then you got higher up officers, and you're kind of like this in between,
Yes.
And there's a lot of officers who kind of like don't really stand up for their people, and I tend to do that, and kind of I don't make good friends because I stand up for some of my people. But it's just interesting because my wife's uncle is a retired lieutenant colonel from the Army, and I remember this story sticks with me like to this day all the time. But he told me when he first got commissioned, his first unit, like he had soldiers that were having some issues. There was like a race thing going on, and his commanding officer was like trying to get him to like basically punish this guy, and he's like, no, like, and I know why you're doing it. Like you're doing it because you have a race issue with, I'm not standing up for it. And he's like stood up to this, higher ranking officer, and, kind of got his career tarnished a little bit. But doesn't regret that. And it's just that one of those things. It's like, you know, you think of other people and like the situation, and you don't think about yourself. You know what I mean? Because like seriously, like careers get messed up. You know what I mean? But
I know.
like, but I think like what my soul and my conscience and everything, I think is a little bit more important at times. It's like I can't.
For me, like my parents, my mom will laugh when she hears this, but like I have always had this problem. And now, again, we're talking about the internet and learning things about ADHD. I have very extreme justice sensitivity.
Ooh.
Have you looked into that at all?
No.
Look into that. So essentially, if I have a compulsive need, if I feel like something is not right, or somebody's being bullied, or something in those situations where I feel like injustice is happening, it is a compulsive thing. I will instantly jump up. I'm that person. If I see something happening, you know, out in public, I will say something. Like, that's just who I am. It's who I've always been. I got in a lot of trouble in school for that. But like, I have a fundamental need to stand up for people. Like I don't know another way to explain it.
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't know that was like...
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And it bothers me. Like, I mean, I'm that person. Like, if I see a bunny on the side of the road, I'm gonna, you know, I'm that person. So, yeah.
But you know what? Who's going to do it?
And that's the way I think. Like, if I don't help, everybody else is just going to do the same thing. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the problems in our world right now are a lack of people standing up for what's right. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter what their politics are. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Yeah. And in my world, it's very black and white. And I understand there can be gray areas. You know, there's nuances always. But there are certain things that are just non-negotiables for me. Yeah. No, always happen. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I've done that too. Yeah. You're kind of like, this ain't right. No, I ain't going down. Exactly. You know what I mean? I think that's important. Really, if that's a syndrome, I don't think, I mean, it's not, I'm going to keep it. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a positive trait. I mean, I don't see it as a negative. Who gave it the term like syndrome or something? It's justice sensitivity is the like proper term for it. Oh, okay. Now, it's not labeled good or bad. It's just you are very sensitive to things that you feel are not right, you know? Huh.
That's cool. You can see where I'm already thinking.
It's a lot. Again, back to that undiagnosed, it explains a lot of things growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Awesome. So these are going to be some like quick fire questions. Yeah. What would you say is your favorite book, podcast, or even resource that kind of like inspires you to be bold?
I've got a few. I'm a big Brene Brown fan. Oh, okay. So essentially anything by Brene Brown. I just believe that if the world had if we were all a little more vulnerable and willing to communicate a little bit more about what we're feeling, I think the world would be a better place. Yeah. As far as podcasts, gosh, I'm not going to lie to you. I probably consume anywhere from 10 to 20 podcasts a week. No exaggeration. Wow. So for me to try to pinpoint it down is hard, but I will tell you, I'm very again, back to my justice sensitivity, a lot of politics. I try to stay really informed on current events. But I also do a lot of research and maintenance on my ADHD. So a lot of self-help ADHD focused stuff is kind of my jam. And then like Empire Builders is a great women's focused business building podcast. So yeah.
On the ADHD side, what kind of podcasts or resources do you listen or you're looking at there?
So I do a couple. Admittedly, a lot of mine are very female focused because there's a hormonal component in ADHD that I like to have that nuance included in the conversation. So ADHD Women's Wellbeing podcast is something I listen to on a weekly. She does it like twice a week. The ADHD Lab is another really good one. I could send you a list, but there's a lot. Like if you just search ADHD focused podcast, there's a ton of research out there and different resources that they bring into their podcast. Tons of stuff out there.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I always like looking at and researching that sort of thing too, because it's, It's just, I think it's fascinating. Like
the maintenance is crucial for me personally. Like
yeah.
I have to, I know it sounds crazy, but like every day I have to remind myself like, oh yeah, you have ADHD and like you are going to forget this. Like you must do these things to be successful in your life, let alone your job. So
it's so funny. My son, he was like, Dad, remember because of my ADHD? Like, I'm like,
that's me. My husband's like, yeah, we know.
yeah. Like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's funny. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Gosh, that's a hard one. The best piece of advice I probably got was and I'm summarizing, but essentially show up, do the work, be kind, and the rest will come. And yeah, not really to think about the in-betweens, think about doing your best every single day and not think about what comes after that.
In one word, how would you encourage someone who's maybe like listening right now to be bolder today?
Consistency.
Oh, I love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Consistency. That's a really good one. I want to recap on a question because I totally missed it. I really like this question though. But it's if you could talk to a version of yourself from the past, like let's say before you're taking your big moment, like what would you say to yourself?
I would probably tell myself, as I do most of the time, to stop overthinking and just let the universe happen. Just to have enough faith that it's going to work out and to just let it happen.
Nice. Cool. Where can people find you, or how can they follow you? Like, you have your socials? Like,
I do. I am Azia Jingra on GINGRAS on Instagram, and then we are Quantum Homes on both Facebook and Instagram.
Very cool. And is there like anything that we didn't cover that you want to share before we wrap?
I would say, yeah, just a little shout out to people either in the real estate field and feel like they're not making any progress or traction, or people looking to get into it. Again, consistency. Show up, and even if it's one phone call, if all you can do is one phone call a day, then show up every single day and do that one phone call consistently.
Did you do coaching? You were
I did, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So my whole role as a team leader was essentially to coach and grow the agents. That was like the whole overarching role.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I start in July. I'll be teaching pre-licensing at South Mountain Community College. So super excited for that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll add teacher to the list too, which is like insane. No, I shouldn't be anyone's teacher, but
oh, that's awesome. Very cool. Well, we're also going to have a guest page for you on our website, on the Bold Moves podcast, az.com. So there'll be a special spot for you there. All your socials will be there too. If anyone can't find you, then they can just go there and all your stuff will be there. But yeah, no, it's been amazing having you on the show. I'm glad we got to connect and you got to share your journey and your story. And yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Yeah. Very cool. Awesome. Well, that is the Bold Moves podcast with Azia Coleman, and we are out. Thanks for listening to Bold Moves. I'm Matt Torres, and I hope today's story gave you that spark to keep moving forward. Be sure to follow the show for more conversations that inspire action, shift mindsets, and remind you you're not alone on the journey. For exclusive content, updates, and more, visit boldmovespodcastaz.com. Until next time, take the leap, trust the process, and keep making bold moves.
Hey, if you want to learn more about Quantum Homes and how we can help you in either residential sales or property management, please check us out on Facebook or get in touch with me directly. Just two bros having a conversation.
Exactly.